you can kind of tell certain subs are just in a different class of quality, and it's a small world. All these guys, they all know each other and they've all worked with each other, and it's great because they all get along too, which is really great for us because the more people that we know that work with people and subs and other businesses that we've worked with, and we really know the quality and the kind of work that they put out, it's kind of like they've been vetted already.
So welcome to the podcast. We have Cody and Kristen on with us today. Welcome, guys.
Hi,
Thanks.
thank you.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, excited to have
Yes.
you both. Husband-wife duo. So Kristen and Cody Dawson, they're owner and co-owner of Patriot Home Construction. And I know you've been listening to the show and very active. You guys have had a ton of growth, from where you started to where you are today. And I know we'll get into that throughout the episode. And appreciate you both making time.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
Thank you
of
for
course.
So I know you're making or working through a large-scale renovation right now. Maybe we start here. All of us are having setbacks. I think all of us do in the building industry. What are some of the setbacks you've noticed, when you're working on a large $1 million renovation?
Well, I mean, either of us could
talk
start
about
there.
which one. Yeah, I was
Yeah.
going to say
Yeah.
several.
Obviously, when you have a large renovation like that, I mean, there's a lot of things in play. Scheduling is huge. Material orders are huge. Our client's budget, we always got to keep that stuff in mind. And when it's a project that's that big, which for us is our biggest to date, like certain hurdles is just making sure that we're hitting the mark financially, and that we're also hitting the mark when it comes to what our client expects. Then obviously, kind of as you go through it, I feel like it's different when it's a remodel versus like a new build, because in remodels we're very much retrofitting what's there. So you can envision one thing, and then as soon as you open up those walls, and you kind of got to hurry up and pivot, and things change. And so on this project, we're pretty much hitting every part of the house. So we've encountered things like that a lot. But we got a great team of people that we work with. So for the most part, it goes pretty flawlessly.
It's interesting because so just this past week, I was at my Builder 20 conference, out in Boston, and we were at dinner, and, one of the topics of the Builder 20 was, vetting clients and making sure we're doing the right projects, right, that are right for us. And, a lot of it's, just understanding how to navigate clients, especially from that pre-construction period. And the comment was made is that a lot of times where we may think we've had a bad client or a tough client, most of it comes down to either we didn't set right expectations, or we didn't fulfill our portion, or we didn't communicate right. And that at some point the breakdown comes with the client, that they're just like, the frustration comes and they may turn into quote unquote a bad client, but there were things on us in the builder. How have you both seen, as you've become more experienced in your career? You mentioned that you open up a wall and there's surprises. If you're doing a renovation today to set the expectation as opposed to maybe day one years ago, how is that communication different, knowing that there may be surprises, knowing that you may have tried to account for everything, but there's still going to be some surprises?
Yeah.
So,
Go ahead.
okay, I was just going to touch on that a bit. So something that we do set for the clients is we do schedule a pre-construction meeting, and this is our opportunity to have a conversation with the client and say, hey, these are some of the issues that we've run into previously. And so just trying to set that precedent for them, for the expectations of a home remodel, because sometimes many clients, this might be their very first renovation and they're not exactly sure what that looks like. So setting that, that meeting up ahead of time to make sure that we have everything scheduled, make sure that we're touching on notes that maybe they didn't even know they would run into. That has helped us tremendously. And it's received really well with our clients as well. I mean, they appreciate us coming to their house, sitting down, walking through the house one last time before we start demo. And that way we can answer any questions that maybe pop up, during that pre-construction meeting.
Yeah. And then even one other thing to kind of piggyback off of that is, even during our initial visit with the client, when we're kind of really starting the process of getting like an estimate put together for them, and just building out that proposal, I think it just comes with experience. I mean, the very first time, I ever put together an estimate for somebody where we were taking out a wall or opening up drywall, I mean, I never would have thought to, look for vent lines for plumbing, or that We got copper, we got PEX, we got PVC, PVC. I mean, just all these different things that could possibly be in there. So I think it definitely just comes with experience and the fact that, you look for certain things. The age of houses is going to tell you a lot. If you're looking for just other things that are in the vicinity. But then even during that initial visit, it's just planting the seed for the client that like, hey, just be aware, we're close to here, or previously when we've done this, this is what we encounter. So that could be in there. And you just kind of prepare them ahead of time.
One thing early on in my career, and we did a lot of remodels very early on, and we still do some large scale renovations now. But early on, it was always difficult to come in to your point, Cody, as you're looking at the as build situation, and you know,
Mhm.
copper to PVC or cast iron, whatever it may be. I mean, those are some great examples of just the plumbing alone, yet alone everything else you may find as a surprise when you open up the walls. But one thing that was always difficult, even if you had, electronic tape measures and stuff, was really laying out good square footage and layouts and takeoffs. And, now we've seen with like Matterport, you can go in and you can scan the home and you have a
Mhm.
pretty good diagnosis of the exact layout and square footage. And then when you open the walls, you can do that as well. Are you
Yep.
using Matterport? Are there other tools you're using to really get like when you're doing $1 million renovation? There's a lot to it. I mean, what are you and Kristen using as far as technology just to help get a good grasp from the pre-com period?
So Matterport is something that we actually just started looking into. We haven't used it yet, but right now we use Builder Trend pretty heavily. So we do a lot of photo and video documentation on certain rooms. Obviously, before demolition, once we have walls opened up, we get all those photos so that we have everything loaded up in there. And if we ever need to refer back to any open framing after we get drywall up, at least we have some sort of reference. But yeah, something like Matterport, I think, was kind of a game changer for those certain scenarios because you can just have it through any phase of the renovation or build or anything, and just have a realistic view of something to look back on. But for the
And
most
I would
part,
say
yeah, it's builder trend.
Yeah, I would say too, as we evolved, a lot of things are manual, whether we're updating the client with sending photos of different things. And
Mhm.
they're like, so for example, the client that we're working with right now on this job, she's been traveling a lot. So she's been going to different states. So she hasn't been able to actually be in the house to see what's going on. So I
Mhm.
will say Buildertrend has been very helpful for that, to send photos and say, hey, we're thinking about this and we might pivot a different direction. And she's been able to log in and put in updates, make comments. And so that for us has been a game changer. But I know as we continue to grow and as our company grows, we're always evolving. We're never
Mhm.
stopping. I think that's part of growth is evolving and just making sure to find new technology and new innovative technology that's out there that we can be more, successful and give the client a better experience as well.
Yeah, I do love the builder trend aspect because unlimited cloud too. So as you're taking as many
Mhm.
videos and documentation, especially if you need to refer back to that, if there's any question with the clients and, to Cody's point earlier, as you open up walls, you can create a really good snapshot of what the home was existing to,
Hmm.
for those hard conversations that could come later if there are any surprises.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
So let me
Yeah.
ask you this because I know you both have a unique story, and I think it's important to bring it up because, you know, any business you have to identify an opportunity, right? And both of you had careers, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, start a
Mhm.
handyman, and then here you are running your own construction firm. I mean, these are you see an opportunity, a business opportunity, but these are major steps to get to this place.
Yeah.
And do this together. What made you actually take the plunge and be like, you know what, I think we can figure something out here?
Well, I think I've always wanted to do my own thing, and I think, the 999 ideas that I pitched to Kristen before and she shot down, it was like the 1000th idea of starting this business that she actually said yes. And yeah, she thought it was a good idea and we could probably do it. And then that's when I was kind of like, whoa, whoa, okay, let's think about this. And for a lot of people, COVID really hurt their business or hurt their career. For me, it was kind of the opposite. I had a lot of time at home, but it really wasn't affecting my job that I had. Um, So that's kind of what started the handyman stuff. I mean, we just started on our own house, and then friends and family were like, "Hey, come do this for me," or I know someone that needs this, and so that just kind of snowballed and really picked up pace. Um, yeah, and then it just kind of hit a point where I had one good sized project, and at that same time, I was supposed to be headed out of town for work the day that this project was supposed to start. And so Kristen and I kind of just had like a conversation of, like, here's the fork in the road. What direction are we going to go? And we decided to take this path, and it's been great ever since.
Yep, that sounds about right. And then as far as, when I come into play, so I tried to help Cody as much as I could, with doing things while I'm on my lunch break,
Mhm.
before I go to work, after I go to work, in between the kids. And then it just got to a point where, it made more sense for me to leave my job to help the business because, for me, that was more successful, would be more successful for Cody, for us, for our family. It would give me more time that I would be able to juggle everything. Even though I say more time, I definitely have less time. I thought coming in, I would, oh yeah, I'm not working a 9 to 5 anymore. This will be easy to juggle. That's the exact opposite. If anything, this morning, for example, me and Cody were up before 5 a.m. knocking out estimates, reviewing all the jobs that we're working on, and just trying to get on the same page with everything. And we're just always working. And I know you
Yeah.
know that, right? It never changes. Obviously you add more people and that helps too with the growth. But I had different expectations when I came into it. But I would say now that we've done it together, it is 100% more fulfilling for both of us. I've seen him thrive in this environment. And so it's so nice to be able to be supportive of him and his goals and ambitions. So we're really happy about that.
Well,
Yeah, and I think
go
pretty,
ahead, Cody.
well, I was going to say, I think pretty early on too, we always had the goal of we're working towards Kristen not having to, do her day job. Like we always wanted her to be able to leave, but we just didn't know how long it would take. And it was within like 1 year, and she
Yeah, it
left.
happened
And
very
then,
fast, very fast.
yeah. And obviously, she was doing a ton when it came to social media marketing while she was doing her full time job. So there was a huge amount of success that we got because of that. And just like the networking of, certain individuals that we work with regularly now that helps us build our business. So, yeah, it was just kind of, we don't really have a choice. Either we stall what we're doing or you leave your corporate job and we take this off.
Yep, exactly right.
So, I mean, the fine balance here, which is tough. I mean, you touched on this, is entrepreneurship. It's not for the faint of heart. You think I'm leaving my 9 to 5 job, and then you realize the amount of hours it takes, right? But the self
Yeah.
fulfillment, as you mentioned, and maybe even to some extent the flexibility, uh, depending on what that flexibility word means, right? I mean, there are options there. But there is a fine line to when you're starting out, and Cody's self-performing and you're supporting Kristen, you have the handyman skills, but now you're trying to scale, right? You get to this $1 million renovation, I would imagine you're not doing the drywall and the plumbing and the, electrical and low voltage and everything else. I mean, you have to get to the point where you have subcontractors and trade partners and suppliers. When did that point come to, in the process to look at, okay, we need to scale, we need to get to the next level where I can't just have my bags on and subperform if we're going to grow this and be in a position where we can support both of us, as a couple financially.
So it was hard for me because my entire career jobs I've ever had has always been very hands on, very physical. So like just the fact of when I started the handyman business, I did because like that's what I really liked doing. I enjoyed it a lot. Uh, so it took a while, and I know the saying of work on your business, not in your business, and
Mhm.
that's the best way to try and scale. So it's always Kristen hammering in my brain of how much I need to like step back away from like the day to day physical, like being in the job, in the work. So I do it more, now, but I think like 100%, like working on the business probably didn't happen until this year, um, which isn't too crazy. I mean, because we're a little over 3 years old,
Yeah.
so but it took time and it's hard.
I
It's hard
think
to
part of
say.
that too, just on Cody's personality, is he's very hands-on in everything, right? So, I mean, he's very good at leading a team, so that's something that comes to him very naturally. But he also likes to be a part of, what any job that's going on. He likes to be involved. He likes to learn. So while it might not be that great, a lot of our clients and a lot of people that talk about us love that about Cody. He doesn't just talk the talk, he walks the walk. He knows how to do a lot of everything, so it's hard to kind of get things past him. So I always like that most about Cody, but I am trying to actively get him more involved in growing the business, because now we're at that point too of that uncomfortable part of growth where I'm like, okay, Cody, like we need to focus on the future. Where are we going? Where are we
Mhm.
leading? And so slowly but surely he's letting go.
I don't bring as many tools in my truck anywhere I go now.
Yes, that's true. That's true. Progress.
It's funny you say that. There's actually a peer of mine that owns a construction company, and by intent, he never gave his personnel trucks. Like they weren't allowed to have trucks; they had
Mhm.
cars. And his whole purpose is that I want my field personnel to learn, how to manage their projects and not just be a catch-all, be-all to put on their bags, right? And go to Home Depot or Lowe's, and pick up material that they need to be on the site, they need to be managing and directing. And it's a tough balance, right? To get to that level where you're like, hey, yeah, I can dive in and get this done, but at the same time, am I
Mhm.
managing it properly so that we can be more efficient and focus on the business or focus on the project itself?
Yep.
Yeah, and that takes time, and I've certainly learned that. Um, yeah, because I would have everything in my vehicle, parts, tools, certain materials, and all that sort of stuff, and it was like I think I always trick myself into thinking, I don't want anyone to have an excuse not to get anything done. Be like, oh yeah, we're missing it. I have it in my truck. Oh, you missing this tool? I have it in my truck. So it was always kind of like a way to just continuously keep moving forward without having delays. But that's probably just a cop out.
Well, I mean, Kristen brought up a really important aspect. And I was just on a panel and it was talking about like growth, right? And you mentioned, what are your growth goals? I think that's a conversation that many young entrepreneurs and many of us business owners, probably those listen to the podcast, maybe haven't thought about, because to me, growth is very important, because whether money is your goal, like if money is your goal, that may define how big of a team you have, right? There could be the stress of hiring, there could be the stress of managing people. There's a lot of things that go into growth. Whereas in some ways, just because you get bigger or do more revenue or more projects or hire more people doesn't necessarily mean you'll be more profitable, right?
Hmm.
Whereas if you're scaling appropriately or, in proportion and you have good systems and you have good protocol, then yeah, growth could mean maybe a little bit more flexibility where you free yourself up from maybe the day-to-day tasks so you can focus on the business maybe 100% of your time. And so there's different freedoms that get unlocked. But, walk through maybe now 3 years into business as opposed to day one, how that growth has changed. What are goals now as opposed to maybe what you thought they were when you both first started?
Hmm. What do you think? I'll let you go first.
Well, I will say once Cody started the business, I mean, it was just little things that, we wanted to grow by, whether it was, oh, I just want to do this small bathroom, to a kitchen, to a whole home renovation, and all of those little steps that we took to be able to get there. I would say now, at least for me personally, I'm fully focused on the business and the growth, and I'm trying to take that time away from Cody. That he doesn't have as much time to be able to do that. So that's kind of where my part comes in, and I keep trying to help with the growth, making sure that it's organic. I will say that is a huge thing, and of why I've always been so negative about some of his past, ambitions when it came to businesses. I needed proof that this would work, because
Mhm.
I'm not a huge risk taker, and I think we're yin and yangs, right? Cody's always wanting to take the risk, and I'm, much more conservative when it comes to that. So for me, I needed to see proof. And so when Cody was remodeling our house, I was able to see, oh, wow, like he is good at this, and there is something more to this. And I think as we keep evolving, which I think I'm kind of surprised about how the growth has happened, but I know a lot of it has to do with, you know, the connections that we're making, the
Mhm.
networking. Obviously, social media has been a great presence for us. And so I keep trying to build off on that. In addition to just building relationships, I think that's huge. I mean, we follow a lot of big builders. I mean, we do have a lot of goals for the future. I know we would love to get into the custom home building, which is a totally different avenue. So that's our next goal. I know that we keep saying we're trying to figure out those steps on what we need to take to be able to go there, but we want to be proficient in what we're doing. So we want to be able to, do a complete renovation, from the beginning to the end, the whole house, and wow the client, and all the little things that we do run into. Let's just say once we do start building houses, we'll be prepared for that. We'll have all the technology, everything in place already before we take that leap. I'm too conservative when it comes to that, so I want it to happen naturally. Cody, if I let him go, who knows?
Well, that's a good balance between the two. I mean, to your defense, Kristen, I mean, I think many of us, in a lot of ways, even if there is an entrepreneurial hat that we have, um, there's still a legitimate amount of risk, right, that we're taking that we have to be mindful of. We have to be conservative in our growth. Let's be honest. I mean, it's not like things are cheaper, right? Inflation,
Exactly.
cost of living, to invest in, take this leap of faith. Um, Whether you're risk averse or not, there still has to be a very, conservative play on how you're running your projects.
Hmm.
As you come into the business, Kristen, especially now as you're collaborating, I mean, again, husband, wife, you're working together. There could be challenges with that, from house to home to work. How has role definition played a role? Understanding your roles, Cody's roles, how you're communicating, separation of duties, as you've grown.
Yeah, so I would say in the beginning it was really hard. So
Hmm.
for Cody and I, just some background on us, we've known each other since we were little kids. So if anybody can handle Cody and vice versa, it's us. We've been through every single tribulation. So I will say, being able to go through all of that, in the beginning, it was a little rocky because I'm used
Hmm.
to a structure that's very set. I was in finance, so I'm very familiar with that. It's kind of A, B, and C. Obviously, working with Cody was a little different in the beginning. I'm going to choose my words carefully. It was a little challenging just because I'm getting used to him. The way that he is, the way he handles his business, but I'm also trying to find my place where I can help the business grow, but not only help the
Hmm.
business grow, but help it be more efficient. And so I tried to bring everything that I had from my previous job onto Cody, it's been very helpful. I know Cody, we were able to put some processes in place that he probably wouldn't have even thought of unless I had was able to bring it from my previous job.
Hmm.
And then Cody, I'm sure there's some things you can add to that.
Well, yeah, and it's, like in the beginning, so it was, right around a year or something. And at that point, for the most part, I was probably doing like 90% of everything. And then while Kristen's working full time, she's helping out when and where she can. So when we made the change for her to leave and come over, I mean, we even talked about it and we're like, we're going to have to figure out like how we divide what you're in charge of, what you're going to be responsible for, and like what I'm going to let go of. And so it took a few months
Yeah.
to kind of just realize like, okay, I don't have to pay attention to this anymore. Like it's Kristen's, she's taking it, and then vice versa. So yeah, it definitely took some time, but yeah, over the course of 3-4 months, I think we all got pretty lined up in our roles, and then on top of that, like when she was talking about goals and whatnot. So I know like her goals between now and the end goal. Our end goal is pretty much the same, but to get there, and why I think we work really well together is that she's got a different set of goals because her roles and responsibilities for the business are different than mine. And so as she's kind of like on this side of the business hitting all those goals and all those marks, getting us towards this end goal that we both want, I'm over here on the other side of the business, like trying to build teams and subs and, just create different processes and working with vendors. So, and that's just all stuff that she does not have time for. And vice versa. Like everything that she's doing, I just don't have time for. But I enjoy my end and she enjoys her end a lot.
Yeah.
But obviously, our end goal is, we want to be the best at what we do. We want to do, luxury renovations and we want to build homes.
Well, I know Kristen was mentioning, her corporate structure and, are there any processes that have come to mind, that you implemented? How did that corporate background, that corporate structure of working for a big company, play a role in what you're doing now with Cody? Because the reality is in construction, very few companies have processes and protocol and SOP. I mean, yes, those get edited and, over time, we continue to make those over, but it's very rare that people have the time and spend the effort, right, to create those in construction. That's why many of us have the reputation we do, right, in this industry. But,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
how has that, the structure of your background played a role into where, the growth you've had today?
I think it's been huge. So I worked for a big, large finance team, and one of our business managers on the team, we worked hand in hand together, and a lot of what she did was handling new employees, new people on the team, and then also making sure that the business was efficient. So a lot of what I got from her, I was able to take to our business. So for example, we recently just hired a project manager, so I was able to get him set up, with all the different things that he needs, with payroll, insurance, all of those things that I already knew how to do all of that. And I was a coach on my team. So I'm very comfortable with coaching people when I'm proficient at what I'm doing. So, getting him set up for Buildertrend, for example, I was like, I want you to be proficient on this. I want you to use this every day. I want to make sure that we're giving the clients really good expectations on, all the things that we're doing every day. So I had him speak to somebody on Buildertrend who kind of coached him through that. He took a class. He was able to learn more things that he didn't know before, and then he's able to be more efficient that way. And then as far as the business goes, I mean, I'm so used to talking to so many different people. So, whether I am handling vendors or different ways I know how to use my verbiage with clients, for example, all the clients that I worked for my firm were, ultra high net worth clients. So I'm already comfortable with that. I've already done it for, many years. So I was able to take that, from that firm to, obviously I can handle different types of clients depending on, their finance background. So
And then from your side, Cody, as you look at the field, there is that part of growth, figuring out the trade partners who are going to be my subcontractors, suppliers. How have you built that base? Because that's one of the most common questions is, when people start a company, they're like, how do I get trades to trust me? How do I find ones that are reputable? How do I find ones that are going to show up and perform? And then as a small company, cash flow is very important, right? How frequently can you pay them? What can you entice them to say, hey, come to Patriot Homes as opposed to our competitor, even though we're new and, everything sounds great on paper, right? And then, the execution becomes something else.
It was a lot of trial and error, especially in the beginning. I think in the beginning when you're so new, I mean, I didn't know a lot of people in the business. I didn't know really anybody in the business. So I couldn't really get referrals from other guys or anyone else that was working in the field that had worked with these subs before. So I mean, it was kind of like a shot in the dark most times. Um, but anytime I kind of like started branching out and having subs on the projects, and I would hire them, I'd vet them as much as I possibly could. Send me photos of your work, or do you have any active jobs that you guys are on that I could stop by? And so when I'd have them on jobs, it was just a matter of looking over their shoulder constantly, seeing how they're installing this stuff, how they're applying these materials, just whatever trade craft that they're doing. With my background, just watching, and there was a lot of people that I asked to leave at the end of the day, and would have somebody else come back. So I mean, for the most part, I think you find out pretty quick who you can use and who you can't use. But it just a lot of not necessarily trial and error, but just trying people out and figuring out if you can use them again, and then you slowly start to get involved with other people, and you find like a great framer, right? and they're good at what they do. There's little waste. They're very knowledgeable. Then you start talking to them, be like, hey, who have you worked with an electrician, or have you worked with a roofer? Have you worked with a tile guy? Like that sort of stuff. Because, if I got a different trade that they do good work, um, you value their opinion. I've had a lot of people that have been referred to me through other trades that I work with that, they just know the quality that we expect. So, they're not going to recommend somebody who's not going to hit the mark.
And that's gonna be my next question, because what's interesting is, the trial and error is very important, right? To find your rhythm and find those good partnerships and communication channels and who's going to do good work. Um, but it's like, how do you find them, right? Because if you're working with this electrician or plumber and they don't work out, well, where do you find the next one? And
Yeah.
so I understand asking existing trades who you have a good relationship. Hey, who have you worked with on other projects? What other avenues have you found to find, good subs and trade partners?
So,
So for me, I was just going to say, so for me, so I also do a lot of networking with a lot of other businesses. So that's another way that I've been able to build some
yeah.
subs. Also finding great designers, architects, all of that. I see what they do, what they can bring to the table. And then I also talk to people who have worked with them before. I will say networking has been huge to help with some really good solid subs that we currently work with today.
Mhm. Yeah, and everything like this was in the beginning of business, was like when it was really hard to be able to find people just because you didn't know. But yeah, anymore now, we have, I don't know, a list of 50, 60 different businesses and subs that we work with. A lot of time now we have companies that will reach out, wanting to just get on our list and if we can use them. And so anybody that we work with now, we just go through, well, Kristen will go through the process of requesting all of their information. Obviously, we do as much research on them as possible. And if any of our subs, it's actually interesting because the more we do this, especially in the area that we're in, um, a lot of our subs and everybody that we work with, you can kind of tell certain subs are just in a different class of quality. And it's a small world. And all these guys, they all know each other and they've all worked with each other. And it's great because they all get along too. Um, which is really great for us because the more people that we know that work with people and subs and other businesses that we've worked with and we really know the quality and the kind of work that they put out, it's kind of like they've been vetted already. Um, but yeah, anymore now, it seems like we have a lot of people that reach out to us as well.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I mean, you mentioned the designer and architects as well. And I think a lot of people listening don't realize that there is an option, right, to even figure out good trade partners that they've had, good experiences, from a subcontractor base, but just from a performance, whether it's the clientele you're working with, whether it's as you mentioned, as you're upscaling and, you continually to upgrade each and every project. How have designers played a role in the success of your firm, from the design and architecture side?
So I'm going to claim this one. So I knew a couple designers before I even came over to help with the business. I worked with one of the owner's husbands, so I already knew her and a little bit of what she did. So really, I've slowly built all of our designers from the different design firms that we've had to the individual designers, and honestly, another game changer for our business. It has been huge because at the end of the day, a lot of people they want that white glove service, and that's really what I push on. So that white glove service is more of like that full service experience. So from the beginning, you have that designer who's able to come to your house, give you all those fun ideas, but without having someone to execute it, you can't be successful. So forming those relationships with great designers, and then vice versa, great contractors. You want to make sure that you're working with people who you can work together. And so that's kind of where I come in to play a bit. I work a lot with the designers and the architects to kind of make that more of a, like I said, like that white glove experience that we always try to push to all of our clients. And that's a
Mhm.
way for us to get new referrals too. But just to make it short, yes, I mean, designers have been huge because I think that really does give you that full picture. I mean, I think the teamwork together is really what fulfills all of these projects.
I love that you brought that up, Kristen, because I mean, the reality is, to have that full turnkey. I mean, it is a luxury call it request, right? To have a full turnkey project. But if you're looking to level up, I mean, those are you want to work for the ideal client that's going to take value in that, right? That they're going to take value in hiring professional firms. But I love that you touched on how valuable the design's been because so many, I hear from both sides, right? So many designers, because I go to these designer events and they're like, we wish we had a bill as pro designer because I'm very pro designer. Like our firm's very pro designer. I'm sure if you listen to my podcast,
Oh
like
yeah, so are we.
yeah, yeah, super
Yeah.
pro designer. And again, probably 1,000 pros to why we work with designers on every project. And really what it comes down to your point, is efficiency. And that entire customer experience is so much better when we have a designer. And the
Hmm.
Mhm.
product, is better, and the marketing's better, and the relationship's better. And there's just so many value adds when we have a good designer. You and young builders are like, hey Brad, how do I get my company to the next level? Like, you know, th- they may look at some success we've had at AFT and want to get there. And I'm like, hey, pin yourself to some designers, pin yourself to some architects, right? And maybe they're established firms, but if you're young, it may be hard. Like I'm sure for you both when you were starting, Kristen, you kind of had a shortcut there because you had some relationships through networking. But um, I look at where I was when I started my company, and I didn't, there are top design firms that probably wouldn't call me back, right? I was too small. There wasn't really a reason for them to engage with AFT at the time. Um, but whether I brought them jobs or I started focusing on some smaller designers that were new off their feet and we kind of built together, there's a lot of options you can work with, young design firms, young construction firms, and then you can kind of build each other as, in the years to come.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean that's definitely, where we started. Just building those relationships with designers, and you're both just building together. And that's really how I've felt with working with some of the designers that we've been working with. We're all growing together, we're evolving, and anybody that, we're able to push. I mean, I will say we always like to promote within, to promote everyone that we're working with, whether it's the
Hmm.
designers, architects, carpenters, all of that. We've noticed that has also been helping us to be successful as well.
Hmm.
Well, I know you touched on social media too, Kristen. And so, how has social media played, a benefit for you at Patriot Homes?
So for me specifically, I post, often, whether it's stories and reels and all of that, but people love to see, updates. They love to see, what's going on. They love to see the before and afters. I'm big on the progress because I know a lot of people like to just see the end result, but I honestly am in love with the progress. So I love seeing, when all the walls are taken down and kind of getting an idea of what we're going to be doing. And I get a lot of feedback from a lot of people saying, wow, I can't believe that, that's what it looks like when you tear open this wall, and it's educating people too, because I think sometimes people don't have any idea when it comes to renovations, what all really is involved. And so I like to share that with everybody. And I know that tagging, whether it's the designers, architects, our vendors, any of the companies that we work with. I mean, we just kind of all build together, and it's like I'm promoting them, they're promoting us. It's like I've only seen growth from it.
Yeah. It gets everybody excited, and
It
we're
does. It
talking
does.
about them and they're talking about us.
Yeah.
What about, I know you mentioned you follow the builders. How does that help from an educational standpoint? Only because one of my biggest struggles, and maybe walk us through how you accelerated your growth. When I first started, I really struggled in understanding not just my value, but really how do I price a project? How do I, charge enough to make a profit? Am I charging too much? Am I bashful when the client says, this is really how much you're paying yourself, and you really aren't sure confidence wise how to have those conversations? How did just the business acumen side go from pricing, job costing, knowing your worth? How did that, play from early on to, how you charge now?
Well, I remember early on, I never charged enough. I don't. And that was something that
That's
Kristen
true.
would
That's true.
always tell me. She's all like, you need to charge more than that. You need to charge more than that. And I was all like, well, this is what I would pay someone to do it.
Yeah.
And it's like, and I'm super cheap, and I didn't pay. I would not pay people a lot of money to change fans or do backsplash or something. Um, so yeah, that took time. Um, but I think it all like you started realizing the costs and needing to increase costs as we got a little bit further into it, when you realize, okay, if we want to set ourselves apart from like just the way we prep our jobs, when we cover the floors, when we protect the doors, when we put down plastic sheathing and zip doors, or we have, HEPA filters and air scrubbers out, you know, all of that is obviously an expensive prep material. So you kind of got to take that into account. It's like, then your like cost per square foot on flooring goes up. And then, now we have like builder trend and employees and all this sort of stuff. So then you just kind of start thinking about your overhead. Um, so it definitely took time to figure out like where our value was and where our costs had to come into play. Um, I think it's just a matter of how you set yourself apart from other businesses and the way that they execute their projects versus the way we execute ours. It's also the way we set up with our clients, how we communicate with our clients, how we communicate with all of our subs. So it's just, yeah, kind of how you set yourself up.
Yeah. I will say, a lot of what we hear from clients that we're working with or prospect clients is just the bad reputation. So, it's just trying to be, just good, like not only good at, the execution, but making sure to respond to messages, calls, making sure that your communication is a little bit better than, this person over here. I feel like if people tried or cared a little bit more, like there would be a lot more people like us out there. I just feel like we try to do a little bit more than other people, and so for us, it's been very successful because I feel like at the end of the day, you want somebody that's trustworthy. You want somebody that's actually good at the job, and so I think now 3 years in, we have a portfolio that we can share with people. So therefore, I feel justified to be able to raise our prices. We have all great reviews. We have people who refer us out, and now we're booked out, for several months. So it's like for us, I'm like that to me shows that hey, we can put our prices up because we're just different than other people. And so that for me has been, kind of our view on that with growth.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, to your point, as you have great reviews, as you have product, you have a resume, you have a portfolio, you're going to have these things that automatically, to some extent, build trust, they build value. It allows you to, charge your market worth, if you will. Um, but how did you prioritize building trust with your clients early on? Because, you alluded to this, Kristen, that like in our market, like a lot of people have a bad reputation. So when you're early starting, and even to some extent now, if clients have not done the research, which is rare, but sometimes it happens, they may see a sign, they may get in contact with without doing a ton of behind the scenes or asking for referrals. But how are you prioritizing building trust with your clients?
So back in the beginning, I know a lot of what Cody did when he was meeting with clients is a lot of people were hesitant to even give a deposit. So I know in the beginning, which I
Yeah.
mean is fair because there's a lot of bad contractors out there. So in the beginning, I know a lot of the time, Cody would try to work with them, to build that trust, and so I would say in the beginning, it was kind of, each client was a little different than the next. And, as time has gone on, a lot of our referrals are from word of mouth. So they're like, oh yeah, we've worked with Cody and Kristen and they're great. You trust them. And we've never, honestly, I would say in the last year and a half, had anybody really question that.
Mhm.
And we do have people who will say, hey, can I see some of your work? Can I walk your projects or see your website and all of
Or reach
that? And
out to
we're happy
previous
to,
clients.
exactly. And we're happy to share all of that with everybody. We're very transparent. So in fact, I encourage it, so I'm like, I want you to know that, you're not going to get ripped off. You're going to get a quality product. And at the end of the day, the price that you're paying is fair, for what you're receiving.
Mhm.
It's such good advice. It's interesting how you look back and those steps to build that trust and to have the success you've had. I mean, it's very admirable what you both have done in such a short time. What projects stick out? Maybe from both sides. Maybe from, hey, that was really painful, and I don't want to do that again. Like we're definitely going to have our ducks around the next one. And then also maybe your most successful project and what made it successful.
Trying to think of what the most painful project was.
Well, and
Because I have
sometimes
probably like
too.
20, but I'm sure like
I
No, we
mean,
definitely have painful ones. Definitely.
yeah.
Um, is there
I
anyone
mean,
that you're thinking
it's
of
funny as
specifically?
you're thinking maybe to answer Cody. And
yeah.
the only reason I bring it up is, something that we probably don't speak about enough. And maybe it's, I don't want to say commiseration, but the reality is we communicate through this is that, the industry is very difficult. Like construction can be very hard. And unless you've had that builder hat on to understand you're managing quality and budgets and timeline and a lot of times limited labor and people not performing and showing up, which looks bad on you as a general contractor. And breakdowns of communication, client gets frustrated. And the reason I bring it up because I've spoken to other builders that they've gotten two phones just for this reason. They have a work phone and a personal phone, right? Because you could have one client that really just can absorb everything out of you where you're like,
Hmm.
do I really want to do this anymore? Like I may have 20 clients that are amazing, but this one is like making me want to like just retire and leave construction. And, I think a lot of people can relate to that. So, um,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know,
100%. 100%. Yeah.
don't share their
Actively.
name.
No,
Yeah,
yeah.
no, no, we won't share
Yeah.
names.
Yeah.
But I will
No, I
say
mean,
a lot of, sorry, I'll let you
go ahead.
talk, Cody. I was just going to say a lot of our jobs and the clients that we work with, I feel like is always a learning opportunity. Even if we did work with a client that wasn't, the easiest to work with, we kind of build off of that too. And that also helps too, because not every job is going to run seamlessly, and
Mhm.
so being prepared for that, I think, does help us because I think every single project there's something that we can learn from. And we do. I mean, there's plenty of times that me and Cody look at each other and I'm like, that was a learning lesson, like I don't know how else to say it, but
We
how
try,
else do
we try not to
you
have
how
expensive ones, but
yeah, exactly. But at the end of the day, too, it's, our integrity is huge. So, even if it means that we have to take a cut from, something we might have missed and just to keep the project seamless, we'll just say, okay, hey, we'll just eat this up. But in the future, like we need to be prepared for this. So this does not happen again.
mhm.
So
Yeah, it's so good. What about, because you do so many renovations, do clients live in the home?
I'd say most of
mixed.
the time, yeah, most of the time, yes. But we always set it up to where we kind of quarantine the area. Um, yeah, I'd say it's probably like a 60-40, 70-30 mix of people in the house most of the time. And that can be a challenge too. Especially when, someone is there either watching you all day and everything that you're doing and nitpicking, or then all night long they're just scoping over everything. And every day is like, oh, did you guys see this? Did you guys see that? I wanted to show you this. And you always got to trust the process, right? Of like, we always try and tell clients like, we're not done yet.
We're
We're
not
not
done.
done yet. Yeah,
We're not done
we
yet.
we still have 2-3 months to go. Like, oh
Yeah, and
yeah,
Cody always says that, a renovation is like a marathon, right? Everyone's so excited in the beginning, but at that very end, you're struggling, whether it's they're like, okay, we're ready to be done, like we're ready to be
yeah,
finished. And, Cody and I both feel the same way. I'm just like, oh, okay, let's
yeah,
just try to get through this. Like we can do it.
yeah,
It's a great analogy because I mean, to your point, in marathon, you're so excited, you've been training, like there's all this adrenaline, as you start, and then, you may in the middle of the race get your second wind, and you're like, okay, I can do this, and then you hit that wall, and you're like, no, like it's over. I
I
hate
quit.
working
yeah.
with you. I
I
quit.
don't
Like I
want to do
just want
this
to be in.
anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
Oh,
yeah. Yeah, I mean, you do your best to try to avoid all of that. But yeah, sometimes it's inevitable, especially on these very long projects that take 6+ months. When it's a renovation and you're in these people's home, uh, you're inconveniencing them. right? And so we always do what we can with, getting people gift cards, and so that way they can like DoorDash food for, a few nights, or get them something to try and ease the pain.
Ease the pain.
How
Yeah.
how do you both stay motivated? I mean, when you're going through a difficult period of your business or a difficult project, what keeps you both motivated?
I mean, I would say it's our kids, our family. It's definitely where our drive comes from. I mean, I feel like Cody and I are both very driven people.
Mhm.
A lot of what I try to do, I feel like I'm always that motherly figure, whether it's to my kids or even to Cody. I'm just like, okay, I know he's stressed out. We're both stressed out, so I'm like, okay, let's make sure we have this workout plan. Let's make sure that we're eating
Mhm.
clean. I think all of that is essential for business owners that I think people don't even think about, because
Yeah.
what you're putting into your body and making sure that you're taking care of your body is huge to help with that stress relief, because like you said, being an entrepreneur is not for the weak. And so I feel like all the time we're always trying to find different things, whether I'm putting a little health shot in Cody by him. I'm like, hey, you need to take this is for your liver, this is good, this is all good. And I'm all about that. So we're always just trying to make sure that to keep the stress low, because that can definitely be something that could end your business if you don't have everything set up.
Yeah. And one of my biggest motivations for, even wanting to leave my job before was because when I would be gone for work, I mean, it'd be weeks or sometimes months, and we have three daughters, and I was just tired of being gone. And our kids are kind of like all in different stages of life, and I just got tired of missing that. So that was my biggest motivation of being able to be home every night, have dinner with my family every night, and not have to work around, a schedule of not my choosing.
Yeah.
And I love that because the reality is, as you mentioned early on in this podcast, is that yeah, you may not have to travel every night. You can be home with the kids, which is super important to both you and your value and the relationship with your children. But you are an entrepreneur, and like this morning, you're up at 5 a.m. and you're doing an estimate probably before the kids are up, and so there is that, maybe that strain, but at the same time, you have that flexibility to be home, which is really why we do what we do. And Kristen, you
Mm-hmm.
brought up a really important point. It's funny, I'm going to touch on the diet health thing, as just because you mentioned that, and there's something about construction that most of our diets aren't very great. Our stress levels not great for sure. Um,
Yeah.
Mental health, suicide is definitely something that should be addressed more because we're in an industry it plays a big role. It's a very stressful industry, and we had at our production meetings, Spencer. He always does an icebreaker, like if what's your dream vacation, what's your favorite car, and he said, "What's your ideal lunch?" Right, and so everyone in the company went through the ideal lunch, and after that, I'm like, I think we have a problem. We need like a nutritionist in here. I'm like, um, it turned into what their ideal lunch was to I have an energy drink and like a pack
Oh,
of
geez,
Starburst. And
yeah.
I'm like, how are you guys alive? I'm like, okay, we got to start looking at this as a company. But, you bring up some valid points that so many times we get busy and we don't eat and the nutrition lacks. And then, that can lead to other things. And at the end of the day, our health is like so important.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree. I would say some things that we've also, done to be able helpful, because, time is money, and, we're always running all over the place. We do order meals that come to our house so that way we can, heat things up for lunch or breakfast, because I know Cody struggles. While a lot of people eat junk food, Cody just doesn't eat sometimes. And that's a
Always
struggle
on the
because
go.
he's so busy. He's always on the go. And it drives me nuts because I'm like, you need energy. You need to make sure you're doing this. So, I always like, okay, here's these easy meals and they're healthy and you can eat them to go. So I think it's just finding that plan that works for you. Because it
Hmm.
doesn't, not everybody has the flexibility to be able to, cook a dinner every single night. So being able to help to make things a little bit simpler, I feel like has helped us a lot.
Well, it's again, I mean, you both have been incredible, especially for coming on, and all the knowledge and expertise you've shared. Um, Before we let you sneak out of here, what do you do for fun?
Hmm.
I like how you both look at each other. That's a true husband and wife that are involved in their business. No time for fun.
Yeah.
We do. Obviously, we like to do, family things together. We're going to be we like to travel. I mean,
Yeah.
when we do have the
Anytime we can
time,
get out of town.
anytime we can get away from the city, get away from the concrete, we do. We like to get in touch with nature and do things away. We're pretty big on that.
Days
I
on the
mean, that's
lake.
just,
Yeah.
yeah, we have a boat, so we like to go on the lake and make sure, and I mean, that's a girl's favorite memory. So sometimes it's good to disconnect, and that's usually our goal whenever we do have free time.
Yeah.
That's,
Yeah.
that's what
But
we do.
yeah, anytime we can get out of town, get an Airbnb, go see some town that we haven't been to, or even go to a national park somewhere. I mean, that's usually our ideal fun trip.
That's amazing. So for those listening, where can they find you?
So we are in the Woodlands, Texas. We serve all of the surrounding areas. As far as our social media, you can go to Patriot Homes TX, that's our Instagram, or Patriot Home Services TX for Facebook. And then our website is www.patriothomestx.com.
Well, Cody, Chris, and I can't thank you enough. You've been incredible. I appreciate the support for the podcast, and thanks for making time to join it today.
Yeah,
Yeah. Thank
appreciate the
you. Appreciate you
opportunity.
having us.
Thank you.
If you get value from the show, please support us by giving a 5-star rating and review on whatever platform you listen to. And I also have a favor to ask. We've had some incredible guests that come on and share their wisdom, their knowledge about their business. So if you have friends or family members that could benefit from those episodes, please share it with them, as well as any other business owners that you're networking with that could get value from the podcast or certain episodes. Please share those as well. Again, subscribe, make sure you're following. Any questions that you have, topics. We've had listeners reach out about certain guests that we should have on the show. Again, brad.l@aftconstruction.com. Email me for topics to address, guests that we should have on, and even if you think you'd be a great guest for the show. So again, thank you for all your support, and we'll see you next time.